That's me, Jonathan North, during my time as a professional footballer. But I soon become a statistic, one of the 700 players released from their game each year. Fortunately, I had a backup plan.
I understand that if you don't make it as a professional footballer, you quite fancy my job, is that right?
Well, yeah, it's not a bad job, is it?
I am now studying to become a broadcast journalist. But what is being done to educate those who will drop out of the game this year? What role, if any, does education play in developing our young footballers? Tom Pett, like many of his peers, is busy writing his dissertation, but he's also firing Stevenage FC to within 90 minutes of the playoff final at Wembley. I wanted to know how he's finding balancing the two.
I think there's been times in the year where I've always thought, oh, I don't need to do this. I've done what I've scored on Saturday. I don't need to be doing this right now. I think one of the main people was my mum and dad. I think the first day when I got the contract, I think the first thing they asked me was, what are you doing with your uni, rather than how long's your contract for. A normal day would probably train in the morning and train in the afternoon. We'd probably start at 10, finish by 2, 3, and when everyone was off to probably see their families, I'd have to either go into uni to meet my tutor to try and catch up on some work, or I'd go into come home and get on the computer and find out what they'd done in the lectures. It was hard sometimes when we'd have a game on a Saturday and Tuesday, because the amount of preparation we'd have to do maybe on a Friday and a Monday for the games would be a lot. So some weeks I'd miss out on quite a lot of work, but the university were really good with that. There's a youth team boy he'd just come through. He signed halfway through the season as a professional. I remember speaking to him. I said, I'm off. I've got to go to uni, and he looked at me as if I was an alien. He said, what do you mean you got to go to uni? You're a professional. I said, well, I've got to look for plans after football. And he said, well, what do you do? So he was pretty interested. And after I spoke to him, he was like, maybe I've got to look into it. But I think a few of them at the start were a little bit like, what are you doing the degree for? Like, you're going to be a star and all this. But at the end of the day, you've got to put your sensible head on and realise football's not forever.
Scholars are currently offered a BTEC in Sporting Excellence, the equivalent of 2 A-levels, and are rarely pushed further. I spoke to Pat Lally, Director of Education at the Professional Footballers Association, to see whether education is now taken more seriously than when I was a pro.
It's progressed massively since then, and the changes have been phenomenal. And I think the people that are in the game now take education more seriously. And I think that comes across quite clearly when you look at the results that are being achieved. I think the Premier League and the Football League over the last 5, 6, 7 years have achieved a 90% plus pass rate across the board in the qualifications mentioned earlier on, which is higher than the national average and higher than any other industry in the sporting sector. Obviously, clubs and the coaching staff at clubs, they're there to produce professional footballers. And obviously, they've only got a limited time to do that. And anything that eats into that time makes it more difficult for them to produce professional players.
Although the BTEC pass rate is impressive, many universities do not accept this alone, leaving former players with very few options. The emphasis is clearly still on performance. I met ex-Chelsea hotshot Aldi Haxia on the day that his former manager, Jose Mourinho, lifted the Premier League trophy.
Everything was going perfect for me, training with the first team. I was only young, I think that's probably like a dream to a young boy to be training with all these stars. I think when I got released, probably one of the hard times where everything hit me, and it was a very low and dark time, and all these trials that you have, you just you might not get into the team, you get knocked down, in the end you just might give up and just go back into full-time work and trying to make a living. From year 10 to year 11, Chelsea took us away from going to school. Not took us away, but we had the option to train on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the morning, and then they'll give us the time to do afternoon times to do school with them. We wanted to play football. We, bunch of boys in a little classroom. We are playing football, right? Even though we're sitting down doing schoolwork, we are still thinking about 2 hours later on we're going to train. So, we kind of avoided a lot of the, schoolwork. I think looking back to it, I did wish I had taken more time on my education rather than just giving everything to one thing and then realising now that it didn't work out.
Aldi's situation is far from unique. Over 500 young scholars are released from clubs each year, and many end up at exit trials like this, trying to impress potential new clubs by performing at the top of their game. There is a theory that education could play a key role in unlocking such levels of performance.
And I'm pretty sure that no clubs at all, you would have been in a better position than I am to know this, I don't think anyone sits there and says, right, what's your personal development plan? It's always, what's your performance plan? And plan B is what you do afterwards. And you can't talk about plan A, plan B anymore. You're an individual. You are plan A. All of this is plan A. If you start to have other areas of interest, it's probably going to help your performance, not hinder it. Yet the coach is going to be sitting there going, you need to focus 100% on this. And actually that's detrimental. You're narrowing someone's focus. Fine, you've got to be focused. But I've had a lot of examples now where players have come away or done something different, done a degree, found a way to then compartmentalise where they're at. So it's not everything. You know, there's a barrier, there's a buffer. Sorry. So if you come out of a performance environment, you had a bad game on Saturday, to come out and not do anything, sit on a PlayStation and worry about what you did on Saturday, it's not healthy. The full time really is spent within the club environment and will have been in that culture since the age of 8 potentially. So you could have done 10 years working towards something in this environment that isn't encouraging you to be any more than a footballer.
Being at the exit trials reminded me of how painful it can be to have your dreams taken away. I agree with Dan, and I'm glad that education was always part of my plan A. But it worried me that many of the lads playing would go through the same experiences that Audi did. Hopefully role models such as Tom are proving that education and football do not have to be exclusive from one another, and future generations will be able to better equip themselves for the second half of their lives.
How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing here by my side, and now you got me with me for